Hi everyone and welcome back to Chess for Charity. In this video, I'm going to show you another escape the maze type of puzzle, where the goal is to see if you can win with the white pieces here. So if you take a look at this, you'll see that the knight has a couple of moves and the pawns are currently gridlocked and your king has no entry points, right? If you try to run your king over here, it would never be able to get in because this pawn, all these pawns really, are blocking all the entry points. So your job is to see how can you break through, if you can even break through, and explain why. So before I show the solution, I would just encourage you to subscribe. Remember that half of the income that I earn in this channel goes directly to charity. So subscribing, liking, all that stuff helps me out a lot. So please be sure to do that if you have not yet already. Okay, let's get started here. So it's white to move, and like I've already kind of indicated, the pawn's going up, these pawns going down. So what do? Do you move the king? Do you move the knight? Well, let's just start with the obvious move, which is to move the knight, right? We want to move this knight to maneuver it. Ideally, you'd want to target these pawns, right? Because these are like the backs of the structure. Unfortunately, you could not target these pawns because you'd have to be on this square or this square to get to these. Or perhaps this square to get to this. So you have to ask yourself, can I get to these squares to target the pawn on c5 or the pawn on e5 and maybe even the pawn on h6? So when you kind of do that analysis, you realize, okay, from h6 there's only one place that I can get to, which is g4. I can't do that because there's currently a pawn on g4. And you kind of do that analysis here, same idea. You can't attack e5 because of these pawns. The only way you can attack c5 is if you're on a4. But you can't get to a4 because you pretty much just have these squares to work with. And if you go here, you'll get captured. And even then, you're not attacking this. You're going to go here. So let's kind of think about, is there another way you can do it? So black just moves, right? Black just sits around. They just move the king. Keep close to the pawns, and they move the king. So if you're white, the goal is to move this knight around. And maybe you see just maneuvering the knight, but do you see the critical breakthrough? Do you see how this is all going to come together? So after black moves again, we'll just say they're kind of matching the knight. So if the knight goes this direction, the king will go this direction. So we're going to go for this square. Now let's see why. So let's say king b6. If I go for this right now, it's pretty obvious, I think, that this is a bad move, because they can capture and you cannot catch their pawn, right? That's not a good idea. So you need to have some prep move here. Maybe you need to run your king in and then prep this knight a3 move. And in the meantime, black can't get any closer than a5, right? Because these pawns are holding things together. Okay, so let's just say we move the king in, just to make some passing moves here. Now, if I make this knight move, can black take? That's the question you have to ask yourself before you play this move. Can they take? Take a second. What do you think? If they take, what happens? Is this winning? Is this drawn? Is there any way that black can get in? So let's see it. Well, after you take, of course you don't have to take, but that's, that seems like the obvious move. After king a5, what do? Do you go back? Like something like this? That's scary because look, now they have the opposition and you're going to give some squares up. You have to be very careful. So instead, you have to give up b4 check. After pawn takes, this king now grabs this square and look at what they're controlling. Pawn is controlling b5, king is controlling a4. This pawn is going to fall next. After king b6, look at this. The king gave up that pawn to push their way in. So where do they go? They can't go to any of these squares. If they go here, just instructive endgame stuff. You can play c5 if you want. You can play, probably get away with king. You don't want to go here. I think I'd play king a4, and if they go there, I go there. Get the opposition. Or I think the simplest is just play c5. You play c5, and then you're in. You're pretty much not going to be messed up by them, because look at all the squares you're controlling. Right? They have to move backwards, and then you just go in because they can't stop you. these squares are covered. And if they go back, I guess I should have gone there first. So yeah, let's do that way. If they go that way, you go there, because then you can get in this way. You're either threatening to push this one, or you're threatening to come around there. So, good idea. Cool. So the short answer to that question, hopefully it's not too long of an answer, is you cannot take that knight. If you take that knight, you will lose. Your king is going to be forced out of the way, and eventually you'll take these pawns, and one of these pawns will run home. Cool. Okay. So what am I threatening with this move, though? So if the king just goes, okay, fine, what are you going to do about it? You can play knight b5, not d5, b5. What is this threatening? Is it threatening anything? The king just waits and says, okay, what do you got? You can't go here. And if you go to check me, does that really help you at all? Because now I can go back, and if you want to go this way, that's one thing, but maybe you want to do that, maybe you don't. It looks a little sketchy, but it turns out that's actually a good move for white, because you pretty much have the time to run in like this, right? So even after this check, the best move for black is to play king d6, kind of keeping the knight contained, I suppose. So now if they check you, now you don't have to worry about them getting here and here. You play king e6 and you're holding everything together. So what are they threatening from behind the pawns? They're not, white pieces are not, it's not a killer knockout blow here. It's a good move to get behind the pawns, but it requires some delicate work. And if you want to risk getting your knight trapped, you have to calculate deep in the position. So like I said, knight a7 works, but after king c7, you know, your knight can't go anywhere. It can go back, but what's the point of that? They just go back, right? So the reason why I want to bring attention to this is to show that you're not threatening to go into the position. You're not threatening to go to b5. Instead, the reason I made this puzzle, or I didn't make the puzzle, the reason why I made this video is because I want to show that now that you went here, you have access to this whole new set of squares. Right, now you can jump around on these squares. And you might say, okay, what's the point of that? So let's just say that king moves. Now I play knight c2. Now what did I get here? What's the point? What did I gather from this new move? Well, king c6, let's just say, I'm going to move my knight around here, and I eventually want to sink it in to h4. And the reason is, I'm going to either sacrifice the knight, or I'm going to hop in to the very nice f5 square. Okay, so you're black and you see that. So I'll run in. Now I can't do it now because there's no prep. I need to run my king over. So let's do that pretty quickly. And black can't really get much closer because of these pawns, right? Kind of amazing the way these positions work out. But you have a knight, so you have this time, but even with the jam-packed position, it's not so clear. Okay, now we're here. Knight h4 is a nice move. What do you do here? Well, first, let's consider what happens if they take, because that's the most obvious forcing move, I suppose. If you take, king takes, right? Clearly. Now what? Well, where does black's king go? They can't go here, can't go here, can't go here. They have to back up. Let's say they go to g7, f7, e6, e7. Pick one. I'll pick one. g7. Okay. Best move here, I think you probably know, g5. If they take you, this is pretty clearly a win because you just come in and now you just run this way and there's no fear there. If they don't take you and they kind of just hold, maybe they play, I don't know, king h7, you take them and you play this nice move, king g4. They can't get the opposition. They have to back up. Whether they go there or there, it doesn't matter. I run in here. I win all the pawns. Okay. So they can't just capture. If they capture the knight, it's an easy win for white. That rhymed. Okay. So I play knight h4. What do they do? Let's say they go king g7 maybe, or maybe they don't want to get checked. Maybe they go here instead. So I play knight f5 check. Not check. Knight a5. I said a5. Knight f5. I'm really excited about this knight. Jeez. Okay. Now what am I threatening? This pawn Can you guard it? No, you can't. Look at the way that the knight and the pawn coordinate against this defense. They're making a little fence here. And this pawn's going to fall. So maybe you play king f6, I don't know. You take the pawn. And now, what do? You do this, okay, go back. Now, black has to stay close to this pawn, but that allows me the flexibility. We'll go back here. That allows me all the flexibility in the world to move this knight around. And I can leave my knight. I can go here, here, and then threaten this. And if the king ever goes this way, don't get too far. If the king ever tries to attack, this guy goes, right? So I still think even now, you just have fun with it. But yeah, they can't take the knight, and they can't leave the knight just there and move the king. In either case, they will lose. So the answer is, yes, you can escape the maze. How? You use this A3 square as a pivot point. You get there so that now you have access to these other squares and eventually give up your knight on h4. What I'm going to do now, and hopefully you stick around for it, is I'm going to play against a 3200 rated computer with this position. And this is going to be live, so hopefully it's going to load in a second, so give me a moment. Hopefully we can win this game together here. Okay, let's start. Okay, they just, it's that position. I should have gone from the starting position. Let me go to the starting position, which is right here. And I made the first move, right? Yeah. So that was the position on the other board. Cool. So let's do it. So let's go here, B1. Let's just show that this works. And if it doesn't work, then I'll fix it. So I could go this direction. Maybe we can go over that line, or maybe you can after the video is done. But now I have this pivot point. And now I run, and I'm going to run the king in. A lot of pre-moves. I don't want to waste your time. Okay. Oh, they take it. Okay, now how does this work? This seems to be clear now. I'm not going to lose, right? I'm not going to do anything crazy. Give up the pawn, take this one, and this one's going home. And then this is going to be an easy one. And oops, that's fine. So I'll just give up the queen. And then easy win. And if I want to get crazy, just don't stalemate the queen, or don't stalemate the king. So we'll go here, and then here. And then now you really don't want to stalemate. I'm just going to give up the queen. I'm always very afraid to stalemate, that I just end up making very bad moves that are just inferior, but that works. I'm always afraid of stalemate. I'm sure you have too. Played a lot of bullet chess, and I've stalemated so many people. But that's it. It's not that hard to win, but you have to be careful because there are a lot of ways to go wrong. It would be interesting to look into the other line where you have to jump like this, going this way. I think that would be a fun line to look into. I don't know if I can do that right now. I don't know if that's too long of a video for you. Let me know. I don't want to bore you to death, but I also want to go deeply into the analysis. I don't know what the audience wants, so one of the best ways to get it is to just ask. So yeah, this is an interesting position. What do you do? Move the king? They have to commit, and then maybe I can try to hop around. I like the idea of going the other way. But yeah, give it a try. Try it out. It's a lot of fun. But that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. Hopefully you escaped the maze. There are 2 other videos in this little series I have going with Escape the Maze. They're kind of fun. They're challenging, but it's a good time. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.